The SCP Foundation is constantly growing and always changing. It's like a living, breathing thing that is constantly coming up with new ideas and ways to make you feel uneasy as you read about it. And the most common way this collective thought project expands is through the addition of new SCPs. Now, to keep on top of how many new dudes are coming up through the pipeline, I have done some digging to bring you today's video. Hello again, Most Amazing Top 10 family. I'm your host, Jade Arena, and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. Today we're going to be digging through the files to bring you the top 10 newest SCPs. Remember to stick around until the end of this video because I will be answering some questions from my Instagram inbox. And make sure you click right here for the link for our new channel, which is Top 10 Central Vibe. It's me all the time and it's amazing. Here's a clip. Just like blup blup blup. Oh, and that was for sure poo. This is gonna be Top 10 Central Vibe. Hope you guys like it. It's gonna be starring me all the time. We're in the Illuminati. And without taking any longer, let's get into this list. Coming in at number 10, we have SCP-618. Honestly, this SCP sounds just as useful as it sounds scary. This SCP was discovered in British Columbia, Canada, which I have to give a shout out to because that's my home province. It's good to know that there is some spectral activity going on out there. Well, there happens to be a crawl space in a home that is no ordinary crawl space. From the outside, it would seem that the crawl space is just a normal area tucked away in the corner of a home. But once you go inside, you will see that that is not the case. It would seem that the area extends infinitely in every direction, like an endless room. There is also strange webbing that reaches out over the walls that has a series of pictures hanging in the webbing with writing on the pictures. The previous owner of the house has been missing and it's suspected they might have gotten lost in the endless void that is the crawl space. The total distance of this area is unknown, but everyone watching has to admit this sounds very helpful. You could have endless storage space right down there in your home. It almost sounds like it's worth having a supernatural entity in your home just to have that convenience. Coming at number 9, we have SCP-5319, a massive event that has caused the appearance of several entities that seem like they want to kill us all. Wow, it didn't take long for this list to work its way over to world domination. SCP-5319 comes in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes it's an earthquake, sometimes it's a tsunami, sometimes it's a volcano exploding, and sometimes it's all of the above. But that doesn't really matter because the real threat is what it births. Large aggressive beings that have been called SCP-5319-1 and usually pop up close to densely populated areas and have thermal and nuclear capabilities that will attack these areas. The SCP Foundation has been successful in pushing these creatures back, but it would seem that the cause of summoning them is still unknown and their motivation is still unknown. All we can be certain about with these creatures is that they want the destruction of the human race because when they arrive, it's an all-out war. The case files on these beings have been lowered in classification because every member of the SCP Foundation needs to be briefed on them. If enough of these beings appear, it could quickly lead to the end of the world. Coming in at number 8, we have SCP-2754. A massive festival on an island in the Pacific. The festival itself is the specific SCP, and it seems to be no danger to the public, but is able to influence its surroundings in a strange way. The festival is where a group of people that are native to this island will take a series of lanterns and tie them to helium balloons and then let them loose in the air. All of this goes normally until one of the balloons starts to glow purple. Then it will start flashing green, and then the whole sky will turn purple, the entire night sky. The next day, the sky will return to its normal color, but it is still unknown what force this group of people has tapped into to control the color of the sky. After this ritual is done, it would seem that nothing strange happens other than the changing of the color of the sky. To contain this supernatural information, the SCP Foundation has released a series of disinformation bubbles on this festival, saying that the changing of the night sky is caused by a light surge that is purely a scientific anomaly. Coming at number 7, we have SCP-4291, a sunken submarine that might be trying to cover the world in coral. It's unknown how this submarine made its way to the bottom of the ocean, but it would seem seem that it is Russian in design. Now, it's not the make and model of this SCP that has put it on today's list, but a couple other features that has everyone at the Foundation scratching their heads. There seems to be coral growing off of this SCP at an extremely fast rate, and all the coral in the sunken U-boat usually is found in warmer temperatures, which is very strange. This coral seems to be growing outward, but the SCP Foundation has put a containment center around to try and stop the spread of this SCP. It would also seem that the former crew members of this ship will get reanimated every so often and just sort of float around the ship until they are destroyed. Coming at number 6, we have SCP-5265. This next one kind of reminds me of something from the Addams Family. Do you guys remember the disembodied hand that would walk around like a little spider? Well, this is close to that, except it's a whole arm. It has been severed from its whole body, and even though it should have no life left in it, it still manages to move around. It would seem that the hand still has some level of intelligence and is able to do small tasks like solve puzzles. It is also able to communicate via writing on paper. However, it does not know how to read Braille, and any attempts to communicate with this SCP have failed. Although it is creepy, it doesn't seem to be a major threat and continues to move around freely. How the arm is able to exist outside of its host is still unknown, but there have been some notes that suggest it still has some connection to either its past life or former body. Coming in at number 5, we have SCP-314-J. Not every SCP is going to try and take over the world or bend the laws of physics. Some SCPs are just going to challenge your ego and make you feel bad about yourself. This SCP is a math book, and when you open it up, there will be nothing there. That doesn't seem like a very useful book. Well, once you start looking at the blank pages, it will start to give you a plethora of mathematical information. Now, this isn't some secret code that will unlock the secrets to interstellar travel. Oh no, this book will start to give you hard evidence on why you suck. The title of the book is The Numerical Proof That You Suck, and every last page of the book will start to fill in with hard, irrefutable evidence backed up with every form of math on the planet that you indeed suck. Any SCP official with a fragile ego or confidence issues is not allowed to read this book, as it could send them down a spiral that will ruin them forever. That isn't the book you're going to want to pick up if you're a sad boy. Coming in at number 4, we have SCP-5842, an SCP that has one purpose and one purpose only: to get you to stop. That sounds actually kind of nice. Sometimes we feel a little bit overworked and it would be nice just to sit back and have some time to relax. Well, this also seems like the most stressful way you can force a person to relax. It's like telling someone you're going to light their car on fire if they don't take a nap. This SCP is a stop sign, but it's not just any ordinary stop sign. It's a stop sign that will appear out of nowhere and have some sort of supernatural influence over the person that it is haunting. It can appear in your car, it can appear in your house, and when you see it, you will stop whatever you're doing. The story that was posted on the SCP Foundation was someone who had it appear in their car, they immediately stopped driving, and then they started walking home. It was a 12-mile hike for them to get home. So as you can tell, this stop sign doesn't care about inconveniencing you. Coming in at number 3, we have SCP-5165. This SCP sounds like something that could be fun, but also could be the most dangerous thing on the planet. SCP-5165 seems to be some printer paper that was made in a factory in Romania. Pretty straightforward, there's nothing interesting about that, until you learn that you can fold this printer paper into the shape of an animal and it will become that animal. That's pretty gnarly. There's also some instances where the paper will be turned into whatever item it is folded into and bring with it some more items, or a man who goes by the name of Marius Grahorge. This guy apparently was killed in the same spot that the paper factory was built many years ago during World War II. Now, what I'm thinking is there's a ton of things you can make out of origami. What if you folded this paper into a dragon and then there was just a dragon on the loose trying to take down the world and trying to kill us all? That sounds like a bad time. Coming in at number 2 is SCP-5437. These are some of my favorite SCPs because they almost seem like they could be real. This SCP is a massive structure that could be somewhere around 6,000 years old. It was found in Paraguay, and it seems to be a massive temple of sorts. The full size of the structure is unknown because most of it still needs to be dug up, but it seems that the entire structure has some strange supernatural properties. Whatever is housed within the structure seems to age extremely slow. There could be a chance that something extremely old could be housed inside the temple, and there could also be the chance that whatever power is causing this anti-aging process could be housed and removed from the temple. That would make the best product to sell to middle-aged women who love to buy anti-aging cream. Why buy endless amounts of cream when you could buy a holy artifact that may or may not be cursed? And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have SCP-5106. And for the number 1 spot, I have picked the most Canadian SCP I could find. 1, because I gotta represent, and 2, because it has to be one of the strangest, strongest, funniest SCPs I have ever read about. SCP-5106 is a Canadian goose that has the full concept of the English language and can speak fluently. It also is very intelligent and can talk to anyone it wishes and uses the barter system. And if that wasn't powerful enough for you, it would seem that this goose also has the ability to control other animals. Now, whether or not the other animals simply understand the goose and then follow orders, or if they're under some sort of mind control is still unknown, and it would seem that the goose cannot control other humans or other more powerful species. But out of everything on this list, this SCP is by far the best new addition and is strangely powerful and super Canadian. Alright everyone, that has been the list. Now I'm going to answer some questions. Aiden Oxer, okay, I think that's how you say that, wrote in and asked, what's your favorite creepy creature? And I think I would go with a goblin. They're always sneaking around and they're up to no good, and I just appreciate how crafty they are. They're really good at that. Tristan Sobotka wrote and asked, what state do you live in? And I have to say, I'm not in any state because I'm a Canadian, baby. We don't have states up here, we have provinces. And Apocalypse 2044 wrote and asked, what's the most underrated thing? And I think I would have to go with a staycation. It's really nice just to stay home and do nothing instead of traveling. I mean, I love traveling, but I don't think anything beats just sitting around and relaxing hard with everything you need. Alright everyone, that has been our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Until next time, I've been your host, Jade Arena, and check out some more SCPs. These are cool. There's new ones. There's a goose. It's a goose now. This is my favorite one, the goose. Bye. Let's go right into it. This one will be better because I actually got a chance to read it first. Okay. Coming in, SCP-35. All that we can be certain about is that these all we can be certain about